What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Transition Game TV, where we push the pace and take you from point A to point B. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about the NBA and the direction that the NBA is seeming to go in. Lately we've had a lot of situations play out through the media regarding NBA players getting in trouble and having drama online and in their personal lives. And of course, I'm talking about Mr. Morant and Mr. Zion Williamson. We all know the situation with Morant, with the gun situation that he had in Colorado in the strip club, and the 8-game suspension that the NBA and Adam Silver levied on him during last season. And then recently, Morant had another video come out when he was riding in a car with his homies and once again flashing a gun, which has caused Adam Silver to suspend him again for 25 games for this upcoming NBA season. And then we have Zion Williamson, another young NBA star who some would argue is already a superstar. He's missed a lot of games due to injury, but when he's been on the court, he's been amazing. Having some issues in his personal life with young women claiming that they've had interactions with him and are pregnant and things of that nature. Just a lot of personal things that Zion's doing behind closed doors that have leaked out to the media. And let's be honest, he seems to be a little reckless in that area of his life, allowing his personal life to spill over into social media. But I wanted to talk today about the direction of the NBA and where it seems to be going, and that is the international players seem to be taking over the league as far as being the faces of the league and the most marketable players in the league. And this is when I want to acknowledge that LeBron James, as much as I am critical of him, and even though I don't believe he is the GOAT and things like that, I have to admit LeBron James has been an amazing player as far as being marketable, staying out of trouble, and being a face of a league. And also Steph Curry. This has been pretty much the LeBron and Steph era. And both of those guys, American-born players, have carried the torch for the NBA and been really positive figures during their entire NBA careers, with very little to no drama outside of the game that would bring negative attention to themselves, to their families, and to the league as a whole. So you got to give them credit for that. The NBA has had a long line of American-born players who have been the faces of the league all the way back to the beginning of the league, honestly. The only international players that I could say were faces of the league, you think about it, Akeem Olajuwon in the 80s and 90s. You thinking about a Dirk Nowitzki, and even a Steve Nash being from Canada. These guys were superstars who were international players. Now, we've had a lot of international players play in the league throughout the years, But as far as being faces of the league, it's basically been dominated by the American player. It takes me back to a movie that came out in the 90s called Hoop Dreams. If you guys remember that movie, it was a documentary about two young kids in the city of Chicago who were trying to make it to the NBA. They were in high school, and it chronicled their journeys as young men being high school stars and trying to get Division I scholarships and ultimately make it to the NBA, which was a lot of young basketball players' dreams in the 90s and in the 80s. Everyone wanted to be like Magic, like Michael Jordan, like Larry Bird, Dominique Wilkins, Isaiah Thomas. You know, these guys, just to name a few, were American-born players who were superstars and had a lot of kids wanting to emulate them and follow in their path. But in recent years, the international players, since the game has become global, the international players have improved their game, and there's been an influx of star caliber players who have entered into the NBA. And it seems like we've got to a point now where the international player is dominating at a level that we haven't seen before. You look at a Luka Doncic, you look at a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have Jokic, who just won a championship, and even his teammate Jamal Murray, who was also from Canada. And that's just to name a few. And then, of course, you have the number one draft pick that will be chosen number one here, I believe, next week, Victor Wembanyama. He's also an international player. So the point I'm trying to make is the international star is starting to take over as far as being the faces of this league. And I want to ask the question, why do you think that is? Do you think the American players are fumbling the bag, so to speak? Do you think the American-born players are not mature enough, as some have said in the media in recent weeks, like a Kendrick Perkins who mentioned it last week? There's a maturity level that seems to be different with the American player versus the international player, that seems to be hurting the marketability of the American-born player. I personally don't think Ja and Zion see that big picture like that, but Ja Morant is a superstar, and in my opinion, so is Zion Williamson when he's healthy. These are the two youngest, most talented players, American-born players in the NBA today. And number one, they can't seem to stay healthy when you're talking about Zion. And number two, they can't seem to stay out of trouble. And of course, I'm referring to Ja Morant. I don't believe that those players realize what they're doing for the players behind them that are coming up. Even a young player that hasn't made it to the NBA recently, named Mikey Williams, he also had a situation where there was a gun involved and a shooting involved with him, I believe in San Diego, California. So that just adds just another layer to what seems to be something cultural that's going on with our young men and young athletes, and our young basketball players. It reminds me of LeVar Ball and how much criticism he faced for the way that he was raising the Ball brothers, LaMelo, Lonzo, and LiAngelo. I heard a lot of people really bashing that man for his style of parenting and how hard he was on his kids, how present he was in their lives, how outspoken he was in the media about his role in their lives, and how involved he is with them, how hands-on he was, and how unabashed he was about it. And a lot of people didn't like him for that and still don't like him for that. But then you have somebody like Ja Morant's dad, who seems to have had his situation or any criticism aimed towards him kind of swept under the rug, excuse me, which I think is unfair. I think if you're going to come down hard on LeVar Ball for how involved he is with his children, there has to be some accountability as well for Ja Morant's dad, Mr. T. Morant. Now, I don't want to come down too hard on T. Morant. At the end of the day, Ja Morant has to make better decisions. But I do see T. Morant around a lot. He's at mostly all of the games. So he is present in Ja Morant's life. And they seem to have a tight relationship. You know, obviously I don't know them personally, so I don't know how close or not close they actually are. But I think it's just interesting that I don't hear the same level of vitriol aimed towards T. Morant as I did towards LeVar Ball. But getting back to the point about the international players, what do you guys think about the direction of the NBA? Do you guys think that international players have now taken over because of their maturity level and their games obviously are, I wouldn't want to say surpass the American players, but it's hard to say that they haven't when you really take a step back. I mean, LeBron and Steph are kind of the last of the Mohicans, so to speak, when it comes to the American-born star who are the faces of the NBA. When Bron and Steph are gone, who's going to be the face of the NBA? Who will be the faces? You have Giannis, you have Luka, you have Joker, now you have Wembanyama, you have Jamal Murray, and that's just off the top of my head, guys. This thing is getting international really quick, and the American player seems to be fumbling the bag. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I just wanted to get that off my chest this morning. It seems like the American players really need to understand the bigger picture, and LeVar Balls of the world don't need to be bashed. They need to be praised for the way that they're raising their sons, being present in their life. And who cares if they're outspoken? Who cares if they're brash? Just the fact that somebody like LeVar Ball was able to get 3 sons to the NBA and have one of them become a star and an all-star. I think LaMelo made the all-star team. I mean, that's an amazing accomplishment. And all you hear about LeVar Ball in the media is negative things. So the international players, the American players, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that the NBA is going to pivot towards marketing the international player more? Or do you still think that there will be American players that will continue to cultivate their games and still dominate the NBA as far as the marketing side coming up? Do you guys think it's a cultural thing? Do you guys think that the international players have more structure, are more focused, are harder workers? Do you think the American players kind of just feel entitled and maybe feel like the social media aspect of things is the most important thing and aspect of their careers, which international players don't seem to really care about the social media side. I don't really see international players have a huge presence on social media and have a lot to say and have a lot of antics and things of that nature online. So let me know what you think in the comments. And you guys have a great Father's Day for all the fathers out there. Once again, this is Transition Game TV, where we push the pace and get you from point A to point B. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll check you guys out later. Peace.